Dear lovers, lovers of all kinds of things, but especially of wildness and wild creatures and wild areas, I'd like to take you on a quick or a rapid image odyssey through the Rewilding 10, as we call them in Rewilding Europe, the 10 rewilding areas that we have decided to start working with. We set ourselves a reasonably ambitious goal to help to rewild 1 million hectares at least in Europe until 2020. We asked for nominations from the whole European audience, so to say, and we quickly got 30 pretty good nominations. Then we selected 5 out of them to continue working with through local partners in each location. Then we selected a 6th one, and then we got another couple in the pipeline, and I'd like to take you on an image odyssey through those. We started working in these 6 areas. You might have heard about the first ones before, and I'm happy to be able to announce here and now that we are working with the 6th one, the Central Apennines, right outside Rome in Italy. These are the red dots here. And we're working in Western Iberia, on the border between Portugal and Spain, together with the Fundación Naturaleza y Hombre, and together with the Asociación Transhumancia y Naturaleza. And in Velebit, in Croatia, we're working with a couple of local partners. In Romania, we're working in 2 locations with the WWF Romania, in the Danube Delta and in the Southern Carpathians. And in the Eastern Carpathians, we have been working with one Slovakian and one Polish organization. I'd just like to show a couple of pictures and describe a little bit what we've been doing and what our local partners have been doing and what we have in pipeline. Danube Delta, the biggest wetland in all of Europe. There's beaver reintroductions in the pipeline. There are works on red deer and fallow deer reintroductions. These are wildlife, of course, that were there once, but of different reasons, human reasons, they disappeared. We're also working with on business development, on developing local tourism, first of all. In 2 of the locations in the Danube Delta, we are trying to help establish community conservancies, some of the first of its kind in Europe, very much inspired by the work that has been done, for example, in Namibia. So one of the slogans we're using is Europe learning from Africa. In the Southern Carpathians, in Romania, a wilderness arc at the heart of Europe, we're working very hard together with the local partners to make the first bison come back to that area in about 200 years, and that will happen in early 2014, with a very enthusiastic local municipality who sees this as one of the big opportunities and chances for them. We're also working together with the hunters in order to try to create some no-take zones. We believe that no-take zones is a very important and very useful method to bring wildlife numbers quickly back up again. And very frequently we find that the hunters are very quick to understand why that is a good idea, of the same reason why fishermen in the oceans understand very quickly that no-take zones in the seas is also a very good idea. We're working on an inventory of pristine forests and wilderness zoning in this huge area. There's restocking of red deer. As Franz Schepers told in his presentation yesterday, a lot of the places in Europe, even nice-looking, pretty wild wilderness, the actors are absent. It's like a beautiful theater with a beautiful background, a good orchestra, and nice music, but there are no actors. In a couple of places, really wild sites in Europe, I have personally got the feeling that I see more wildlife from my kitchen window in a suburb of Stockholm during breakfast than I see in a week of hiking in real wilderness. And then there's something seriously wrong. So that's why we prioritize a lot to bring the wildlife back, one of the natural processes. The Eastern Carpathians is one of the wildest and finest wilderness areas in Europe. It wasn't always that way. This was once one of Europe's most densely populated areas. Then of wartime reasons and a bunch of political reasons, suddenly they were desettled, people were thrown out completely, and a lot of other things happened. But the place has gone very wild since the end of the Second World War. Here we have been working on legal protection and campaigning, on wilderness protection. It's an ongoing work, of course. Our local partners also made a very interesting attitude survey among local people and regional people, and they found a massive support for the whole idea of rewilding and wilderness and wild animals. 80%, more than 80% of the respondents were in favor or strongly in favor of those ideas. There's also a film produced which will be screened on this Wilderness Congress, and if I'm not wrongly informed, it'll be on October 9 in the evening. And I strongly recommend you to go and see that film, Wolf Mountains. Okay, over to Croatia, the wild west of the Adriatic coast. There we're working with some of the hunting concessionaires to create no-take zones and to develop wildlife watching as a way of making wildlife more worth alive than dead. We are preparing reintroductions or restockings of Balkan chamois and the griffon vultures that once used to breed here, but that were killed by poisoning from shepherds. We are working with natural grazing by wild horses, and possibly also a Tauros or an aurochs comeback breeding site. Bison are also absent from Velebit since hundreds of years, and we would be happy to help bring them back. It's a bit of a long way before that happens, but we will start a local research initiative, bringing some bison in and studying them, how they work in that environment where they once were. And in western Iberia, the ancient Dehesa, Sierra and Montado landscapes, on both sides of the Portuguese-Spanish border. There has been now developed vulture watching from hides, and if you've ever thought about seeing vultures up close, like 1 or 2 or 3 meters away, this is the place to go. It's a seriously fascinating spectacle with hundreds of kites and vultures coming down at the same time at the same place. There's also black storks breeding in the area, both on the Portuguese and the Spanish side, and there are some hides developed also for that. And we started with natural grazing on the Spanish side with the Retuerta horses, on the Portuguese side with the Garano horses, both two of the most ancient horse breeds available in Europe. And it's also been designed as a Tauros breeding site, where hopefully the comeback of the aurochs. Will be one of the points and one of the locations where that rebreeding or backbreeding to get back to something that's very similar or almost identical to the aurochs. We're also starting up something we called Rewilding Europe Capital, and Giles Davis will talk more about that in 2 days. But I can already now tell you that we're doing the first investments from that investment. It's a commercial investment instrument where serious commercial money will be made available on a loan basis to businesses that promote and foster and help rewilding to happen. So some of the first investments are being done from that investment institute in this area, in bed and breakfasts, in lodge facilities, all of them with a business plan and an economic future. Right, moving on to the Central Apennines. This is a really wild place, just an hour and a half from Rome. You could visit the Colosseum in the morning and you can watch wolves and bears in the afternoon, in the wild heart of Italy. There we would like to help develop that bear and wolf watching so that it becomes more valuable economically for the people who live there, and working with those communities to help develop new values of the wild. In Europe, just as everywhere else in the world, we have pretty long experience of using nature in many different ways, cutting trees, shooting animals, killing fish, plowing the land, blowing up the mountains. And what Rewilding Europe is trying to say is that there might be a few other ways of using nature that are at least as profitable or even more profitable, but that would not harm the wild, but instead let it come back. And we really want to help develop and be part of that learning process of how to use nature in more ways than the old ones. So we're help to bring back the Apennine, chamois, creating no-take zones, and a number of other actions, reintroductions of vultures, etc. Now we're also exploring 3 more areas. So these that I've now mentioned, they were the first 6, the Rewilding 6, so to say. We have another 3 in pipeline, where we're pretty confident that we will be working here, but final decisions are not 100% made yet. We're still exploring, there's still a few open questions, but these are 3 fantastic areas. The one on the Thracian Mountains, on the border between Bulgaria and Greece. The other one is the Odra River Delta, which is the river that's the border between Germany and Poland. And the third one is the Greater Laponia that you've heard a bit more about earlier this morning. The Alaska of Europe, or if it's Alaska, that is the Laponia of the United States. It's an open question. Here we will look at reintroductions of a couple of missing wildlife species, the Arctic fox, the lesser white-fronted goose, the muskox. And also develop wildlife watching on those species that are already there, but sometimes in lower numbers than would be natural. And also some of these carnivores they're pretty costly for people who do the reindeer handling and reindeer herding here. And we want to explore if there are any ways to make them become a resource and not just a cost. It'll be, of course, work against these mining claims that you might have seen the horrifying maps this morning, and for the protection, the final protection of all the old growth forest that exists there today. It also includes river restoration and letting the riverine fish come back, the salmon, of course, being the flagship species, but there are a couple of more that could side up and, so to say, slide along behind the salmon. In the Odra Delta, we're looking at there's already a pretty massive wildlife comeback. There's new wetlands being created by nature itself when people either stop pumping out the water or the dikes are ruined by flooding. Suddenly the road is being taken over by water, like here. I think that's a very appropriate warning sign there at the side of the road. We want to help develop eagle watching tourism. We saw 35 sea eagles in about an hour and a half. We want to help develop natural grazing also here with red deer and wild horses, bringing back the bison. It's almost there. It's just 20 kilometers from this area, and we want to help them make the leap. Supporting nature tourism development, of course, and similar activities. And finally, in the Thracian Mountains, there's wildlife watching development. These gentlemen are building a beautiful hide for eagle and vulture watching and wolf watching. wolves like this guy. Also reintroduction of the native fallow deer down there, and also red deer that have been poached and shot out. But also the hunters realized that that was not very fun with nothing more to hunt. Natural grazing and reintroductions of really big wildlife like susliks, the ground squirrels, but also chamois and the black vultures, supporting some of the local tourism businesses. And finally, the 10th site is still an open invitation. We have a couple of really good candidates, but we're still looking for that perfect one. So this is an invitation to all of you in the audience. If you have a good idea or two about which area that should be the 10th one in the Rewilding 10 portfolio, then please do contact us and describe why you think that's a good idea. So I would like to just end with promoting the Rewilding Europe seminar on October the 9th. It's a full day rewilding seminar. Lots of really interesting speakers, really interesting subjects. And I can promise that you will have a lot of aha experiences, and you will come away from there with a lot of new ideas. And maybe you could also give us some. And finally, the aurochs book. We just made a book about the aurochs, and it's not yet published, launched, but it will be on the 6th at 7 o'clock in the Coalition Wilds booth. So welcome, and I hope to see you there. Thank you very much.